Have you ever struggled to balance showing Christ-like love while protecting yourself from the manipulative people in your life? Maybe you're feeling guilty about wanting to distance yourself from the narcissist, but you're worried you might be giving up too soon, or worse, not showing enough grace. Well, just how much toxic behavior is a Christian supposed to tolerate? In today's episode, I want to share with you exactly how true Bible-believing Christians would and should respond to a narcissist. My friend, get ready, because these traits will leave you feeling empowered to effectively deal with the mental and emotional hijackers in your life without feeling like a doormat, stuffing your emotions, or enabling more toxic behavior. And to do that, I want to share with you the divine strategies that Christians possess to ensure that they handle narcissists in the same way Jesus did. And the 5 scriptures that prove you don't have to be a doormat to be Christ-like. Narcissists are like wolves in sheep's clothing who prey on the goodness and the vulnerability of others. They sow seeds of chaos and then point fingers at you for the ensuing storm. And a Christian firm in their faith is like a lighthouse, standing strong in the midst of the turbulent seas of the narcissistic storms. And believe me, my friend, these storms rage everywhere. But though the seas storm, these Christians remain a force to be reckoned with. But without this foundation, many are left like an anchorless boat with no sails, repeatedly battered by the relentless waves of manipulation and chaos. So, what are these qualities that make wise Christians almost impervious to the demonic behaviors of the narcissist? Trait number 1. This quality is the foundation of all Christ-like interactions. And I know what you're thinking. It's love. It's not love. Okay, it's love. But it's not love in the way that you've been manipulated to believe. The love I'm talking about speaks the truth in a kind-hearted manner, but does not allow others to continue to violate them. I can love you and still not allow you to abuse me. I can love you and still call out your sin. I can love you and still report you to the authorities. I can love you and still file for a separation. Biblical love does not mean enablement. In 1 Corinthians 5, the Apostle Paul was writing to the church in Corinth about a man who had been sleeping with his stepmother. And here's what Paul said. He said, "Put him out from among you. Hand him over to Satan for the destruction of his flesh, so that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord." The Apostle Paul didn't say, "Oh, just love on him, he'll come to himself." He didn't say, "Oh, he who is without sin, cast the first stone." He didn't say, "Start a support group for him." He said, "Get him out." He wants this demonic life, give it to him. And hopefully, when Satan has his hands fully on him, he'll come to himself and turn his life back to the Lord. And I say this because we have a terrible misconception that to be a good Christian means that we need to be soft on sin. We have to accept and tolerate bad behavior, all in the name of some distorted version of love. But true Christians know that sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is to let toxic people suffer their consequences. True Christians know that Jesus never enabled toxic behavior, so neither should we. But the true Christian does it with the right heart attitude. There's no malice or ill will. Rather, it's very much like Paul. You see, Paul didn't say hand him over to Satan to be destroyed. He said hand him over to Satan for the destruction of his flesh. You see, Paul wanted nothing more than to restore this young man, which he eventually did, after he turned his behavior around. Quality number 2. Well, this one's a quality that even non-Christians covet, but very few actually acquire. And it goes back to the lighthouse that we talked about earlier. And for that lighthouse to withstand the stormy seas, it has to have integrity. Responding to the narcissist's manipulation, gaslighting, and overall game playing can take a toll on your sense of peace and self-esteem. And if they're not standing firm, it's only a matter of time before a wave is going to take them out. But true Christians recognize that narcissists are just pawns in Satan's scheme. And instead of caving into conformity or buckling under those false accusations, they actually stand firm on Romans 12:21. Do not become overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Now, before you go thinking that this means that you got to revert back to that distorted view of love that we talked about earlier, hear me out. True Christians maintain their integrity by not exchanging evil for evil. They don't respond defensively, they don't go tit for tat, and nor do they allow their own self-worth to be eroded by the narcissistic lies. They don't let sin slide, but they confront it with truth, and they do so in love, which means they do it without malice. Just because a Christian doesn't have malice and hate on their heart doesn't mean that they tolerate toxic behavior. Just because a Christian doesn't wish to exchange toxic for toxic doesn't mean they're going to sit back and do nothing in hopes that being nice is going to promote these parasitic freeloaders to change. Not only do Christians know that this isn't biblical, they know it's foolish. Keep your integrity, my friend, and I assure you that when the narcissistic storms rage, you'll be the one left standing tall. Are you tired of getting blindsided by difficult people? Be sure to grab a copy of our free Toxic People Survival Guide. It is my free gift to you to help you identify and deal with all the difficult people in your life. I'll go ahead and include a link in the description section below. But every Christian knows that you can't function in integrity if you don't operate in this next trait. And this is the one that the true Christian has down to a science. They may not want to do it, but they know that this one trait sets them free every single time. And that trait can be found in Matthew 6:15. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you your trespasses. A true Christian is not going to hinder their own prayers and blessings because of bitterness. They will forgive. They know that unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. It's unproductive and it's deadly. But they also don't have this misconception that forgiveness equals trust. They don't even have the misnotion that forgiveness equals reconciliation. And I believe that Jesus would have forgiven Judas, but I don't know that he would have trusted him with the treasury funds again. And that's the problem with narcissists. They want, they expect instant forgiveness for their wrongdoing. But to them, forgiveness means that we don't talk about it, not a word. Forgiveness means that you just blindly trust them again without them having to earn the trust back. Everything is supposed to go back to normal. And by normal, I mean back to fairyland where they are the hero and no one ever notices their flaws and wrongdoings. You can't bring it up, regardless of how much I hurt you, because if you do, you are labeled unforgiving. This, my friend, flies in the face of the core of Christianity. Jesus died a brutal death on the cross so that we could be forgiven of our sins, but we have to confess our sins and put our trust in Him. My friend, free yourself from the burden of bitterness and just forgive. You may not like it, you may not feel it, but forgiveness sets you free to release these life-sucking leeches so that you can go on to flourish in all that God has for you and all that He wants from you, leaving them in the best place imaginable, the hand of God. Now, the next quality is one that we all long for, but the truth is, without forgiveness, you will be searching an eternity and never find it. When it comes to narcissists, true Christians operate in peace. No, I don't mean that kumbaya stuff. I mean they operate in the peace that God will fight their battles. God will take vengeance. God will bring justice. And when you know this in your heart, there's a peace that dwells within you that even you can't explain. And while the rest of the world is hanging on to every injustice, the true Christian knows that it's just a matter of time before God rights every wrong. And in doing so, they're better able to follow Romans 12:18. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. But here's the catch. They don't confuse peace with passivity. They don't confuse peace with appeasement. Romans 12:18 says, if it is possible, and as far as it depends on you. So in other words, they do all they can and no more. True Christians are not codependent to narcissists' toxic behavior. They don't believe it is their responsibility to fix or change or save this person. And as a result, you can imagine the incredible peace that they have knowing that who they were and what they did was good enough, even if it didn't end well. Now, the next trait is one that true Christians use even when their feelings are off flying in another direction. Even when they feel the desire to explain themselves, or worse, to re-engage with the charming but manipulative narcissist. No, true Christians don't have all the answers, but they do have wisdom. And they use this wisdom to override any false feelings or deceptive strategies. Because when a true Christian employs wisdom, they avoid the common pitfalls that destroy most people. The giving of a second chance to someone who hasn't repented. The constant pleasing just to keep the peace. The believing the lies simply because they want them to be true. No, true Christians don't tell themselves lies like, oh, this time I think he's really changed, just so they won't be alone. They don't say, God would never want me to walk away from someone, and they certainly don't override their better judgment with false hope and wishful thinking. Instead, they apply Proverbs 22:3. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Through wisdom, a true Christian avoids every pitfall and yields to every red flag. And just when you think that maybe God would want you to stay in a toxic, destructive situation, I want you to be reminded of Matthew 10:14. And Jesus instructed his disciples that if any home or town does not welcome them or listen to their words, they should leave and shake the dust off their feet. And here's the best part. Wisdom is just a prayer away. James 1:5 reminds us that if any of you lack wisdom, ask God, and he's going to give it. But my friend, I got to warn you, don't ignore God's wisdom. You don't use it, you will lose it. And none of this matters one bit if you feel stuck in the injustice of the narcissist's evil behavior. So to learn what God will do to the narcissist when he's had enough, be sure to check out this episode here.